It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
He turned around all gowned up with his hands in his gloves and a syringe in one hand, and he takes a look at you lying face down on the bed and he says, "Present the bum."
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Okay, so I feel like today's podcast needs to start a little differently. There's a word that I want to use to start today's podcast. The word is, and I don't know if Hamish and Andy listen to our podcast. Well, I know Andy doesn't. He doesn't have
hilarious.
Kids, but Hamish maybe listens to the podcast. Hamish, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. We're not stealing your word. Have you listened to the Hamish and Andy podcast?
Not their podcast. I used to listen to the radio.
Okay. So on their podcast, whenever they have a listener doing a segment with them, they always greet the listener with the same word that I think we need to start our podcast with today.
Aloha.
I can't believe you. I know why you said that, because we've just come back from a family holiday and we ended up in Hawaii. But no, aloha. Why would Hamish and Andy say aloha?
I can't see them saying that.
No, I can't see them saying. No, they say ahoy, ahoy. And we've just had
if you're going to say ahoy, you have to do ahoy.
You even had the arm go across your body. You just said like ahoy, like Popeye.
Well, you're supposed to say ahoy, lady.
Well, we've just had a couple of weeks on the ocean, on the open ocean. We've been adventuring. I don't know if that's the right word. We've been on a cruise ship. It's not really adventuring, is it? It's pretty safe. We've been on a cruise ship, and I feel like we need to ahoy everybody. Ahoy.
You know, we were on that boat for a long time, and I don't think I ever heard that word. I don't think it's real.
I didn't say ahoy once. I especially didn't say it like a pirate. Ahoy! Well, this is our I've said it now. This is our I'll Do Better Tomorrow episode of the Happy Families podcast. I'm Justin. I'm here with Kylie, my wife, and mum to our 6 children. And we've just come back from a holiday. We spoke about the fact that we were going away on this family holiday before we left. We talked about how I was worried about it, didn't really want to go, but we needed to holiday better. And so today's I'll Do Better Tomorrow is really about holidaying well as a family, and should you take your kids on a cruise? And the verdict is... You're not going to give a verdict? You want to talk about some stuff before we say whether we should or we shouldn't take our kids on a cruise? Before we left, I would have said absolutely not, no way, and I don't want to go either. That's the reality. I didn't want to go on a cruise. I was worried about all the cons to cruising. There
were a few cons.
I thought I was going to get seasick. You told me that the room was tiny. You also said that the bathroom was so small that I barely would have room to shower. You mentioned that we were going to be gone for a couple of weeks and there were no laundry facilities on the boat. I was concerned about disease and all that kind of stuff. I was also worried about safety issues on board the boat. I was concerned about children, supervision, our child being stuck in kids' club staring at screens all day. I was worried about a whole lot of stuff.
You had a big list, didn't you?
You convinced me that this was something that I didn't want to do.
So now that you've actually done it, how relevant was that cons list?
Pretty relevant. I'm going to say. Now, I should also mention, we're not going to mention our cruise liner. This is not a sponsored post in any way, shape or form. But I was worried about getting seasick.
Well, let's just put it in context, because you didn't need to get seasick.
Yeah, that's
you made
true.
a conscious decision that allowed you to end up at the medical centre.
Okay, so if you want some context,
probably don't.
We've been on the boat for 3 days. I've been fine, and so I decided I must have my sea legs. I'm not getting seasick. I won't worry about the seasick tablets today.
Rookie error.
Number 1. That night we had dinner as usual. I ate my 2 main meals, my 4 entrees, my 3 desserts, whatever it was. And in the hotel room after dinner, I don't know if we went to the show that night or not, but I know that my belly was starting to feel constricted and tight and horrible, and I just wondered if I'd eaten a bad burrito. I thought maybe I've eaten something horrible at dinner. And
a bad burrito?
We didn't have burritos, but it's a saying, like, I've got a sick tummy.
It would have been 6 if it was bad.
Yeah. Look, you've got you feel really good about the fact that I got sick. Anyway, it wasn't too much food. It was seasickness. I asked for you. I told you at one point I really need help. We need to find the medical centre. And so you stepped out in the corridor to find a staff member because you couldn't find a directory to call the medical centre.
And I have to admit, I didn't really believe you.
When you came back in, I had completely emptied my stomach. I had been sick for, I don't know, I felt like you were gone for half an hour.
I was gone for about 2 minutes.
I felt like you'd been gone for half an hour. I was so sick everywhere, like just sick, proper seasickness, sick. And you had a phone number, so you called the medical centre, and thus began my night of horrors.
Well, the doctor he looked at you and he didn't really believe you either.
Hang on, you missed a part, and it's important. When you called the medical centre, they said that they would send somebody up.
They did.
And I thought that was great because I got to lay on the bed. I didn't have to go anywhere, and they were going to send a doctor to me. Well, that's what I
assumed as well. What I didn't know was that they were sending a wheelchair up. And as soon as I opened the door, I knew that this was not going to end well. And you took one look at it and you just said, I'm not getting in that chair.
So you made me sit in a wheelchair and get wheeled to the medical centre.
Well, I didn't make you. I just acknowledged that if you didn't get in that chair, that poor man had to wheel the chair all the way up so that he could be helpful to you, and you were just going to say no?
Yeah, I was going to walk to the medical centre.
You couldn't even walk.
You told me that you weren't going to come to the medical centre with me unless I sat in that chair. And
clearly you needed me to hold your hand because you sat in that chair.
I was going to say exactly that. I needed somebody to hold my hand. So we went to the medical centre where I was once again sick. Because, and like initially they didn't really think I was that sick.
No, and the doctor just said he was going to give you a tablet. And I knew that it was already costing me a bomb just to be there. And I was like, if you give him that tablet and then he's sick again, we're just going to end up back here. But way after I'm in bed.
Yeah. So I was violently ill in the medical centre, at which point they realised that this was serious enough for a needle. In fact, for 2 needles.
For 2.
So they laid me down on the bed.
They said, give him this and a double dose.
Yeah, they did. They dosed me up.
But the funniest part, and it really was, it had me in stitches in spite of the fact that I was trying to have a really serious face. I was just glad that you were a little bit out of it at the time. He turned around all gowned up with his hands in his gloves and a syringe in one hand, and he takes a look at you lying face down on the bed and he says, present the bum.
Present the bum.
I feel like there needs to be I don't know.
You're getting too much.
A flourish of music here.
You're getting too much joy.
Present the bum. Have you ever heard that phrase? It's going to last in our house for a long time.
So I got.
But anyway, it worked good, didn't it?
Do you know what? It was like medical centres on a ship cost a lot of money. Apparently, I would have paid 5 times what I paid, and it was expensive. But that needle worked within about 30 seconds. I took my seasick tablets every morning and night after that, and I got through.
And still had your 4 desserts and 2 entrees.
Yeah, that's right. Gained. This is a big con that I didn't think about. No matter how much time I spent in the fitness centre, and I spent considerable time in that fitness centre, I put a fair bit of weight on that boat. With the best of intentions, I wasn't going to overeat. I wasn't going to have dessert. I wasn't going to be silly about the buffets and all of the food that's included in the cost of the cruise at the restaurants that are available. But I ate excessively.
Well, I went to a talk for beginners on day 1 to just how you can maximise your time on the cruise. And the activities manager, he acknowledged that on average, people put on 250 grams a day.
So that's a kilo every 4 days. That's about right. I think that's about what I did.
I think that's about right too.
I might have done more.
Can I just say I'm really grateful that I worked so hard to lose all of that weight before we went on the cruise. Can you imagine what would happen if I had done that without losing that? Now I'm just back to square one.
Wow.
It's very frustrating. But obviously the seasickness was pretty bad, and it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
But now you've got through it. You recognise that there are things that you can do to stop that. You think about that big long list you gave of all the cons.
Yeah.
Were they really that big a deal?
Well, no. I mean, the room was great and the bathroom was fine. And there are a lot of people. I didn't like being in that much close proximity with that many people, especially the swimming pool. Like, there's a couple of pools on the boat, and the hygiene issues were a little bit meh for me, but it was fine. It wasn't actually that bad. I think overall we had a pretty great time. I think that it was a pretty cool cruise. I mean, you think about it. You didn't have to worry about
cleaning.
Didn't have to worry about cleaning.
Cooking. I didn't have to make any decisions. The kids pretty much got to eat whatever they wanted. I didn't have to worry about the fact that one kid wanted pizza and the other kid wanted fish and chips. Like, it was just all there.
Yeah, I think one of our children had a burger or spaghetti bolognese every single night for the duration of the time we were gone. But I think both a pro and a con was the kids had a lot of free time as well. And they wanted to be with all the other kids. So
I think that was the biggest con for me, was that in my head, I thought one of the biggest pros was that there was kids club available.
Yeah.
So the kids could go off and spend time with their kids. That gave us time to be together without feeling like we had to entertain them the whole time.
Yeah.
But when we were ready to spend time with them, the pull to be with other peers was so great that they actually didn't want to spend time with us. And I missed the family time outside of meal time. I missed the family time that we would normally experience when we're holidaying.
So I totally agree with you, but I also loved the time that we did get. So our meals were fantastic. We got to go to a lot of shows together, and our time off the boat was really concentrated, high quality family time as well. So I agree that the balance wasn't perfect, but we got some really great family time in there as well.
What else would have been a pro for you?
I guess I would probably say that I enjoyed the fact that we got so much time together. The entertainment was amazing. And I mean, I won't fork out for like a mocktail because I just hate paying for things. I just hate paying for things. I don't know if I can say it any other way. And so what I really appreciated was that once you've paid for the cruise, everything's included, everything's covered. And I would say that cruising is a reasonably affordable way to get away and have that time.
I think for families, and specifically mums and dads who are sensitive to being on holidays and constantly having to put their hand in their pocket time and time again.
Yeah.
A cruise takes away the element of pain.
Yes.
Because you obviously pay up front.
Yeah, and you can have as much as you like
But then
once
you're there, you don't even have to think about money. Like you don't even carry your wallet with you the
almost
entire...
all the activities are included. Most of the restaurants are complimentary. There's a couple of really nice ones that you can pay for. And we did that for one of our daughters had a birthday on the boat, and we paid for one of the fancy restaurants, and it was so cheap. Really, for what it was great value. It was a really amazing experience, and those opportunities are there for the kind of the extra experience. But
if you don't want to tap into them, you don't feel like you're missing out either.
Yeah, and that's all we did. Like we didn't tap into anything else that required money, and yet it was so great. You know what else I loved? I loved the shore days. I loved being able to go ashore and have the kind of holiday experience that you and I are used to having, where we go and explore, adventure, find stuff. When we were in Tahiti, we stopped on the little island of Moorea, and we got to swim in a lagoon with our snorkels and goggles and fins that we took in a suitcase, and we literally swam with reef sharks, like 8 or 10 of them around any of us at any time, and these stingrays that were bigger than the span of my arms. Like they were massive stingrays, and I mean, we got to touch them. You got particularly close to one.
I might have kissed one.
You kissed a stingray.
It was pretty cool. My lips felt really soft afterwards.
That's a really strange thing to say about kissing a stingray. But we had some really nice experiences as well. So that was...
So I guess the big question then is, would you do it again?
Yeah.
Because you were pretty adamant that...
if I was to put a list of holidays together prior to this...
It probably wasn't on the list,
I would not even put a cruise on the list. Having done it, I still wouldn't put it high on my list because it's not my kind of holiday. I want to adventure. I want to explore. I want to do things that are going to stretch us as a family. Like
So
once we got to Hawaii, we got to do some really great things that were not the sorts of things that we would typically do. And I loved the experience that we had there. Whereas on the cruise ship, it does become much of a muchness after a handful of days, and I kind of felt like we just spent too long on the boat.
Yeah, so in speaking to lots of other cruises while we were on board, there was just an acknowledgement that the cruise that we were on, we had a lot of time at sea without a break between, and that there are definitely cruises out there that would allow us to have more land time than sea time. And I think that would have been helpful for you specifically.
Yeah, but if somebody said to me, hey, we're going to go on a week-long cruise with our family and we thought your family would be fun to join, if we had friends that did that, I'd for sure, I would actually almost definitely, not 100%, but almost definitely say yes, so long as I had time to get my seasick tablets organised. And so long
You're just putting it out there in case you didn't like the people, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm just putting out a couple of caveats there. And I would also want to make sure that there were plenty of days where we could get off and go and do things on land. And word to the wise, do your planning ahead of time. Get your bookings taken care of ahead of time, because you don't want to be competing with 2,500, 3,000 people who are also getting off the ship at the same time as you.
Some of those ships.
Yeah. So, but I reckon overall, should you take your kids on a cruise, it's affordable. It gives you time together as a couple, It gives the kids plenty of freedom, but you also do get to come back together. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it wasn't that bad.
You know, you had me like literally having anxiety fits for a couple of weeks before we went away.
You were the one that was telling me how bad it was going to be for me. Let's be honest. You created the anxiety yourself.
What?
Yeah, totally.
I was just prepping you.
Oh, prepping me. We're going to have to deal with this. It's going to be that bad. You're going to hate this part.
You're pretty hard to please, you know.
Well, maybe I'm a little bit easier to please than you think, based on my
I just lowered your
experience.
expectations, and it worked in my favour in the long run.
Okay, so from an I'll do better tomorrow perspective, if we were to holiday better, I still would choose something over a cruise in 99% of the time. But for the right cruise, for the right length of time, with the right amenities and opportunities on board, I'd be on board with that.
I would say that if you had children, a number of children under the age of about 8, where exploring is challenging.
Yep.
Because of sleep times and, you know, just the age of your kids, cruising would literally be at the top of my list.
So I would probably tweak what you've just said. I think with young children, particularly kids under about the age of 4, cruising could be particularly challenging.
You know the biggest challenge?
The way other people respond to you if your kids are having a hard time. Yep.
Yeah, we met some people and became friends with them while we were there, and I was really disheartened by the way other cruisers responded to their kids.
And you know who was? I'm going to point fingers right now. So the really cool story is that this person recognised me because she'd purchased one of my webinars, Little People, Big Feelings, and she said, "Are you Dr. Justin Coulson?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And then she pointed out all of her kids and said, "You've helped me with these kids because they have some really big feelings." And we had a great chat, and we got to know their family really well. It was a really fun experience to get to know them. But the people who were the most unkind and impatient with them and their young family of 4 kids, who were all under about the age of 8, were the more mature adults on board the boat. And I use the word mature to say older people who are over about the age of 60, really rude, really impatient.
We talk about entitlement, and generally speaking, we talk about that in relation to our teenagers.
Yeah.
But the sense of entitlement that these people seem to have because they'd paid for a ticket to be on this cruise without recognising the fact that the 2-year-old had paid the same. Like it really actually affected me substantially.
Yeah, there was some pretty... but you know what? That again just emphasises to me, kids do struggle and a cruise can be really taxing on the parents. So I reckon if I had young kids, I don't know if I'd be signing up for a cruise. But once the kids are older than about 4 or 5 and they've got that capacity for a little bit of self-regulation, they're happy to explore.
I think that 6 to 12 age group is perfect.
Probably magic there, yeah.
Yeah. Kids Club just worked a treat for Emily. She's right bang smack in the middle of that. And what was so cute, we'd sit at the dining table. You've got the same dining table every night, and the kids would walk in and all they'd be like, "Hi, Emily."
Yeah.
"Hi, Emily."
Yeah,
"Hi, Emily."
We had a table near the entry and every kid, "Hi, Emily." It was great. So would you cruise again?
Yes.
Wow, that was a strong yes. I would say under the right circumstances.
I'm happy to not take you. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, under the right circumstances and with the right people, I'd probably be up for it as well, so long as it wasn't too long and so long as
So if he says no to you guys, you know you're not the right people.
Or you've picked the wrong cruise. Can't believe you're putting me in there like that. Thanks so much for listening to the Happy Families podcast. It's produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday.
And if you haven't brought my book...
Oh, that's right. I've got a book. The Happy Families... Oh, no, what's it called? The Parenting Revolution. The Parenting Revolution is my new book. Please get a copy. Please, I'm saying please. You want a copy of this book. It's a great book, and you're going to love it, and we need to go.